History remembers him as a god, a flawless conqueror who wept because there were no worlds left to win. But modern behavioral psychology tells a much darker story. Alexander the Great wasn't just driven by ambition, he was trapped by a textbook psychological delusion. It is a condition known as megalomania, an obsession with absolute power, fueled by a toxic relationship with his mother, Olympias, who convinced him from childhood that his real father was Zeus. As his empire grew, his mind fractured. He began executing his most loyal friends, demanding his subjects worship his shadow, and drinking himself into a paranoid frenzy. He conquered the known world at age 30 and was dead by 32. Today, we decode the psychological traps that built and destroyed the most dangerous mind of antiquity. Welcome to Minds of Empire. To understand Alexander's mind, we have to look at his parents. His father, King Philip II, was a brutal warrior who built Macedonia into a powerhouse. But his mother, Olympias, despised Philip.
You are destined to rule the world. Let no one stand in your way.
Olympias was a member of a wild Dionysian snake-worshipping cult. She systematically brainwashed young Alexander, telling him that King Philip was not his true father. She told him he was the literal son of Zeus, destined to rule humanity. This created an intense psychological split. On one side, Alexander suffered from an inferiority complex, constantly terrified that his father Philip's military victories would leave nothing left for him to conquer. On the other side, he possessed a severe superiority complex, believing he was a living god. When Philip was brutally assassinated in 336 BC, 20-year-old Alexander took the throne. He didn't just want to rule Greece, he needed to prove his divine birthright to the entire world. What followed was the most explosive military campaign in human history. Alexander marched into Persia, facing armies that outnumbered him 5-1. But he didn't just win, he pulverized them. At Phrygia, he encountered the Gordian knot, an intricate puzzle that prophecy said only the future ruler of Asia could untie. Alexander didn't bother untying it. He drew his sword and hacked it in half. This tells us everything about his psychology. Alexander did not negotiate with reality. He forced reality to bend to his will. When he marched into Egypt, he crossed hundreds of miles of deadly desert just to visit the oracle of Ammon Zeus. The priests, eager to please the conqueror, addressed him as the Son of God. For a normal man, this would be flattery. For Alexander, it was confirmation of his mother's whispers. The border between myth and reality in Alexander's mind completely vanished. He was no longer a king leading men. He was a deity performing a cosmic duty. And a deity cannot stop marching. Megalomania has a dark shadow. Isolation. As Alexander conquered deeper into Asia, he began adopting the customs of the Persian kings he defeated. He demanded proskinesis, a practice where his closest friends had to bow flat on the floor before him. His veterans who had bled for him for a decade were disgusted. They saw a Greek king turning into an Oriental tyrant. This resistance triggered a deep clinical paranoia in Alexander.
You think you can betray me like this? Sire, I would never.
In 328 BC, during a drunken banquet, his close friend Clitus the Black, the man who had literally saved Alexander's life in battle, criticized his ego.
This is not your kingdom alone! Then whose kingdom is it, Helen?
In a fit of blind rage, Alexander grabbed a pike and drove it straight through Clitus's chest. The immediate psychological hangover was devastating. Alexander wept for 3 days straight, refusing to eat, but the damage to his psyche was permanent. He began executing his top generals, including his most loyal advisor, Parmenion, based on mere suspicion. He had conquered millions of enemies, but he was now losing the war against his own mind. The breaking point arrived in the jungles of India. Facing monstrous monsoon rains, tropical diseases, and armies utilizing thousands of war elephants, Alexander's men reached their psychological limit. They had marched over 17,000 miles. At the Hyphasis River, his army did the unthinkable. They mutinied. They refused to go a single step further east. For a megalomaniac, a refusal is a psychological death sentence. Alexander's entire identity was built on being unstoppable. He isolated himself in his tent for 3 days, throwing a massive tantrum, waiting for his men to repent. But this time, the god did not get his way. Broken-hearted and deeply resentful, Alexander was forced to turn back. His unstoppable momentum was shattered. In 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon. He was only 32, but his body and mind were completely spent. When his lifelong companion and rumored lover, Hephaestion, suddenly died of a fever, Alexander's final grip on sanity snapped. He ordered the execution of Hephaestion's doctors, slaughtered an entire local tribe as a sacrifice to his dead friend, and fell into a state of severe, near-suicidal alcoholism. Weeks later, during a massive drinking party, Alexander collapsed with a violent fever. For 11 days, he burned with illness. On his deathbed, his generals gathered around him and asked, "To whom do you leave your empire?" Alexander whispered his terrifying final words, "To the strongest." He left no heir, no plan, and no peace. Within months, his generals tore his empire to shreds in a bloody civil war. Alexander the Great conquered the world, but his inability to conquer his own ego proved that the ultimate trap of power is that it devours the one who holds it.
Thank you.